Hello, I am Yumma Mudra. I am inviting you to come to the YouTube serial of videos called Masterclass Yumma. I will explain to you all about the Danza Duende Network, and slowly we will be more people to expose everything we have been doing and everything we can offer, so that maybe you find what you need to dance your life and to live your dance for the benefit of all beings. Much love. Hello, I am Yumma Mudra. This is the Masterclass Yumma A8. A8, excuse me. So I am doing it again in a podcast. It's easier and quicker. And I suppose it's as good like that. So thank you to share the masterclasses if you think they're useful, and to comment underneath and to like the channel. And I wanted to just announce before I start this next masterclass about the structure of the Danza Duende Network. I would like to announce that I'm going to go much slower in the publications, because I am like in a almost total retreat right now, and so I'm not dedicating as much time as I used to in whatever it is that is about activities, social activities. So I will keep on doing this, and we have translations going on, and it's not I'm not announcing that I'm stopping it, but it will be much slower anyway, so don't worry if it takes more time. So now, last time we talked about control and letting go, and I also added it was very important. Actually, it was not scheduled to talk about it, but it's very important because these masterclass are, as it is called, masterclass, so it is specifically for teachers. So the teachers really need to understand that we are working in a very paradoxical field of how things at the same time can be very precise and extremely respectful of the quality of art, because human being we have been gathering knowledge for such a long time. So it is valuable to respect and even, I would say, integrate in ourselves all these wonderful knowledges. And in the same time, it is much needed to never lose in that learning of technical issues, that we don't lose our childhood. What I mean by childhood, it's just a word, of course, it's a concept. But what I mean by that is that there is something in myself that is completely free of everything I have been projecting, or everything that I have even received from my ancestors. Something in the deepness of myself is completely open and free, and that core of being needs to be preserved as a space of awareness, a space of experience that is not lost into translation, not lost into technique, even not lost either into whatever kind of craving or kind of need to convince or to establish something in the world. Because as soon as we get entertained into putting a lot of energy into imposing in the material world something that we really wish to offer, we wish to give, we wish to be, we wish to manifest, if that covers up the core essence of our own being, it will sooner or later catch up with or happiness, in the sense of the inner joy. I'm not talking about that the world is all pink or all easy. That is never the case, because the body itself is made of systems that can be blissful and can be painful. So the path of art to express a deeper sense of being that is deeper than only this duality between pain and bliss, that goes deeper. That path can be much better expressed if we could go along in learning techniques, in sharing techniques, in studying, and also experiencing together techniques and knowledges. And if in the same time we preserve that sense of total innocence and freedom. So it really seems to be the opposite. It's like if you have your old grandfather, grandmother, and in the same time the child together inside of yourself. So that's very important for the teachers. That's why I said in the sense of masterclass, this letting go, control and letting go is very important. And when I'm going to talk now about the network as how it's built, the philosophic of the network, which is now the talk is about that. Number 8 is a good number for that. I will tell a little bit how I needed to explain that in the very beginning, and also how the whole concept of creating a mandala that is not actually material. It's made of people and of the minds of people and the offerings of people. It needs to somehow contemplate the way Tibetans create mandalas, because it's very much alike. I have now a certainty that it's almost nowadays it's impossible to maintain the Danza Duende network as a whole for a very long time. It's not possible because it requires too much energy from people in a world that is always pulling out our energy for other things and our attention. And then as we also need a lot of presence to our inner silence, it's not possible to do the whole thing. So what I mean is that you cannot keep the network working and at the same time have all this space and time for your own silence and creativity and everything you are working on as a being, a lonely being that will then share the fruits of his own experience. You need that silence and that time, but also in the world, depending on your situation, you need to earn money to do things, and so it's too much. So we need to make a mandala and to destroy it. And when you destroy it, it's an offering. And so this is something I never insisted very much about. I did talk about it, but I never insisted as much as I am going to insist now, because I think this is how the project becomes completely true, authentic, and doable. Otherwise, it is not. Otherwise, it's too much utopic. Okay, so let's first of all, I'm going to talk about how I created the vision of the project in the very beginning. So I noticed that we could experience lots of things because it started with my own shows and my own teachings and my own experience that what I was doing was starting to make much more sense than it was for a long time. It started to make a lot of sense. It started to take a shape and take a form that was a little bit beyond even my own control. And so I started to understand that it was becoming really that project that I was aiming for. So I would say that that happened around the years 2000, 2001, more or less, when I started to feel that I was getting to a point that my dance and my teachings was starting to make sense. But the teachings was going to take longer time, because whatever I experienced on my own, with my own life and my own dedication to dance, it was very different when I started to share it with people. If I give you a concrete example, when I wanted to share the dance about suffering with people, I knew what happened to me and how I could create some kind of a transformation of suffering thanks to that dance of mine, and how it revealed to me things about myself that actually I wasn't aware of. I didn't really know them precisely. So the dance revealed me things that I didn't know about myself, because even though I was very dedicated to my spiritual practice, I'm a Buddhist, I'm completely dedicated fully to that since a long time, since I was a teenager. And and that was okay, but I didn't know myself as well as the dance did show to me, even if I would practice very much and do lots of retreats and all that. So this is where I started to think, maybe I can give something that is valuable, maybe I can give something that maybe not many people did, because I don't know many people who did the same way of using the dance as a spiritual practice, and in the same time keeping on techniques and keeping on the possibility to create shows on stage. So I saw my own suffering, and I could work with it, and I could also be careful about this expression of suffering in this case, because it was very successful, and I didn't want to get trapped into the fact that people really liked it very much. They really loved to see me suffering. They loved it. I could really make a big business about it. So that was another aspect that I was careful. But when I did enter into this path with students of transforming suffering, I noticed that it was very important for me to learn how to deal with different expressions of suffering, which were not the same as I acknowledged. They were different. So that took me some time, and that also made me study much more the contemplative psychology and many tools that were not included in my own experience as an artist, neither as a practitioner. A little bit more, I was trying to understand how I relate to people and how people need a certain container in order to live these things I was putting into a situation, no? Because we usually did all these workshops in very protected, nice places where we could live it with comfort and a little bit of time. But it was secret, and it was never quite exposed, neither in pictures, neither in movies, all that. So I really lived it in a kind of a very protected environment. But I really understood that I had to improve, so I did work on that. And then nowadays I understand much better what was going on and how all of these things works. So I understood that as much as we can use many tools and we can get into many different ways of entering the path of creation, dance, and transformation, I needed to make it concrete, that it could not be just whatever it is at whatever time in whatever form. Why? Because I was not creating a fixed technology, and it was not a fixed method. It's a methodology, which is something we have to understand how it works, but you cannot make it work if it doesn't come from your own heart. So you have to work on yourself. And that means that you have to have maybe a way of doing things and a pace, a rhythm that is your own. You cannot make everybody do the same thing in the same time, the same way. And so this is why it's so difficult to understand the Danza Duende and to explain it. People who experience it, they have really a feeling that they belong to it, or they at least did enjoy receiving these times, these moments in their lives. And it did transform them. There is a before, there is an after, but it's very difficult to explain precisely what it is. And it takes time, so you need at least really engaging into a lot of training and at least 5 to 10 years in order to really have this thing becoming your own thing. And at that point, you can make it your own and do it yourself. So what I found as a structure was not to say what it is, but to say what it is not. It was much easier because I needed a lot of freedom. I'll give you an example. Like, if we are doing like whirling, spinning as a training, and we're training it a certain way, maybe at one point we could introduce something new in there, and it's no problem at all to introduce that thing in there, and even to introduce somebody who would also share his or her own knowledge in all the area of spinning and whirling, because that's part of the project. That's one of the things we always do. Or we could say about sticks, about how you work with a stick. You could work with a stick in different ways. Or how you work with your mind. You could work with your mind with different kind of tools and different kind of sources. So that makes the project very open and very wide. It's possible to do many things, but we want all these things to be accurate and to be very well structured. So it's not like you take a pot and you put whatever you have in your kitchen all together and then you cook that without awareness. You know what you're cooking, because you know, like I don't know, if you're doing some kind of a tomato sauce, you know that you like in that tomato sauce, maybe you're going to put a little bit of herb, and then maybe a little bit of some spice, and maybe a little bit of this or that, but you're not going to put in your tomato sauce everything you found in your kitchen, and that doesn't make any sense. So there is really a lot of concern about quality in this project. And it should be always in the same time, like I said in the number 7, Masterclass 7, it's control and letting go. So there's a lot of concern about quality, but in the same time you have to just be yourself and relax. So what is it not? Okay? So we would say that the Danza Duende Network is based on its name. It's about dance, so it's you dance your life and you live your dance. So what does that mean? That means that dance is a process that is about life itself. I mean, really, all life. It's also about creating art on stage. I'm not saying show, because it could be ritual. It doesn't have to be show in the sense of showing. That's why I don't say show. So you are creating art, but you can also really get into the dance of daily life, of being with your loved ones, being with people that are difficult for you. All of this is the dance. And also live your dance. It means that if you are really using dance as something that is important in your life, the dance itself, which is dancing, really dancing, then you have to really be fully engaged into that moment of life. So you would say, yeah, whoever dances is engaged. Yes, okay, maybe, but I'm talking about an engagement that is full engagement. There's not a little hair of yourself that's not engaged. So that's the first thing. That's what the project is about. And then Duende is the magic. So we are interested into magic. And how do you work on magic? Specifically the Duende. It is absolutely essential to understand that you cannot make the Duende happen. The Duende happens whenever the Duende wants to happen. You just have to surrender to Duende. So it's more about surrendering, which has to do with engagement, actually. It's more about surrendering than about thinking that somebody could somehow master Duende. Duende will never be mastered. Duende is free and wild forever. So what you do in the work is that you are more learning how to surrender and how to let go of whatever doesn't let you engage. That's fully the definition. So the whole of things we do are helping people to engage, and that's why sometimes you have to push a little bit further than the comfort zone, I even would say very much, because If you engage in like more the mathematical precision of dance, it will be comfortable for some people and very annoying for others, irritating even. And when you engage in the opposite, which is to completely let go and be free and enter into some kind of a trance that is not relying on support of rational, assets of the world, then maybe it's going to be very nice and wonderful for some people and very annoying for others. And very often, these two kind of people, very, very often, not always, but very often, are like two distinct kind of people. And so in this training, we always have both these aspects. So it will annoy either one kind of people or either the other kind of people. It's not because we want to annoy people. It's just because the comfort zone is a place we need to let go of in order to engage. So I want to also remind that this is not therapy, even though it does create a situation that will invite maybe the need for therapy, or maybe even a process of therapy that will happen on the path. The path itself of the Danza Duende is not a therapy, so if you need therapist, you need to look for therapy and maybe engage in a therapy that goes along very well with the trainings of Danza Duende, because if they don't go along together, it will create a problem in the trainings. So that is the basics. And then what is not Danza Duende, whatever doesn't bring together three qualities, which we did call the three pillars, is not Danza Duende. It cannot be part of the Danza Duende network. So these three pillars, is whatever is not free, is not freedom. Whatever is not rigor. So rigor here I will explain better, but you could say discipline or rigor. And the third one is whatever is not virtue, which I'm going to explain too. So it means that everything in the container of the Danza Duende network, may it be manifestation by art, may it be ritual, may it be playing with children, may it be creating situations with people of all ages, of all sexes, may it be teaching, or may it be participating in a festival or creating a festival, all of these will always have these three: freedom, rigor, and virtue. So what do we mean by freedom? What we mean by freedom is the aspect of your own presence in your life and in everything you do, which is not limited by space and time. So it seems that we are limited all the time physically, but actually the one who decides to get up and to sit down and to eat and to go there and to come here and to do this and to do that is always living in his mind. We are living in our mind, and our mind has this quality deep inside, underneath the worriness, or underneath all the desires, and underneath all the what the mind is elaborating as thoughts or emotions or concept. Underneath that, we are always in an unlimited sense of space and time, which is absolutely wonderful, because this is what makes us suddenly be able to create a poem, or to create a dance, or to create a painting, or to create a situation, a dinner. Everything we create as a human beings comes from that space. Actually, that's how we do transform suffering. It's because from that space of unlimited sense of being, which is not having age, not having form, not having smell, not having sounds, not having any kind of characteristic of whatever we could explain, we do feel this unlimited being. And so when we are easily in contact with that, it is like a sense of inner freedom. And actually dancing is It's an activity, I think, that children do immediately as they start to stand up. But actually, it's something that we really do very naturally to express or to connect with this sense of freedom. So that's why very often you see this picture of a dancer and you feel all this freedom. And even as a classical dancer, the person who is doing all these difficult things has this sense of freedom when the technique starts to be very natural, even if it's a very difficult technique. So this sense of freedom is fully part of dance. And actually, I would say in my sense that this is why dance has not been very much appreciated by all kinds of powers of control. Usually powers of control don't really like dance, and specifically when the dance is completely full of freedom, because dance opens all the doors. So it opens all the doors specifically for this reason, because you have this access, this door to your inner boundless sense of freedom. So that has to be always present. So even if you're doing a work that is very precise and difficult, you need to, as a teacher or as an artist, to never lose contact with that freedom. But of course, if it does happen that you lost it, you didn't lose it on purpose. So that's what I mean by, by the three pillars. Of course, you could at one point lose it because psychologically you lost it. You know, that happens to everybody. But you didn't, it was not part of how you teach usually. It's not part of how you understand the work. It's not part of who you are as an artist. So that's one thing. So all people who join the project, they need to have that dimension. And they cannot teach if they don't have that dimension. They cannot pretend somehow to represent the project if they are not fully in their own rights manifesting that dimension of freedom. So the definition of freedom is the space and time that are, in this case, felt as without beginning and without end. So it is something very true, because actually the planet Earth is in an unlimited space. We don't know where it starts, where it ends. We don't really relate to the sense that time is completely relative. So time is not something fixed as we think it is on Earth, and actually we think we are standing up on Earth, but maybe people, like if you are in Europe, people in China, they're not upside down, they're standing up also. And even though the Earth is whirling very quick, and as the Earth is whirling very quick, it is also like going into a dynamic of circles, spiral in the open galaxy, the space. So there is a sense of fixity and of material rules on Earth, but they are not absolute. Okay, so the freedom is that relationship with the absolute. And that brings us to the next one, the rigor. At that time I'd call it rigor because at that time all the people, they had problems with the word discipline. I suppose nowadays it's different, but at that time discipline was very difficult for people. So rigor was a little bit weird. I just thought it was funny because when you go to you go to a nice celebration in a very fancy place with glamour, you have your suit is de rigueur. Of course, you could say it's also rigor mortis, which means that you are very stiff. So that's not the sense here of rigor or discipline. What we mean by here simply is that there is something very precise going on in the same time. The absolute is there, but in the same time, when the sun rises and the sun goes down, or when the day is finished or the day starts, and the seasons, all this rhythm of life is what allows us now and here to feel healthy. So if you have a garden, your flowers we'll be perfectly okay if it rains enough, if there's sunshine at the right time, but if it's suddenly frozen in the middle of the summertime, they will be killed. So there is a sense of harmony, and that sense of harmony and rhythm is what is the definition we gave to the discipline or the rigor. So everything in Danza Duende brings together this freedom and this sense of discipline, because the discipline is what allows us to be free in the sense of health. Because even if we are free, and this is very important, it's not that you can just do whatever you like without regarding the results of the actions. So if I am going to go on stage and do horrible things that disgust people, it's going to be very important that I am aware of what I'm doing, because somehow it is a little bit like a cook. No? I need that people, when they ate my food, they will be okay with the digestion and they will still live, not get sick and not die, because it's not poisonous. So I know people could think that everything is free in art, but I don't agree. So in this case, there is concern. The artist and the teacher are concerned about the results of what they are doing, and they're concerned about health. Health, psychological health, mental health, and physical health. Physical health also. So what does that mean? That means that each person, of course, is in charge of his own understanding of this, but it is important at least that each person does give a value to this sense of health and of the desire to be healthy and to give goodness to people, to give something that is good for them. So even if you do something that does show a very horrible, disgusting thing, you're not doing it in the sense of poison. You're doing it in the sense that it will somehow end up with a good energy. So of course, there's no definition of this. There is no recipe. You have to trust yourself that you know it will be okay. But it means that you do ask yourself, and you do ask people also. You find out, is it giving something good to people, or is it giving something to people that makes them completely feel either more chaotic and worse? Because that is how you have the answer, no? The answer of how you work with people and how your art resonates with people. It's important in the same time to be free and to do whatever you feel and to do fully, engage fully, and in the same time you slowly are going to do the how you say it's not what's the word, you know, like with the alcohol, when you put it in alembic you have to do that. I forgot the name. It's not dissolution, it's like dissolving. Yeah, it's like you have the raw material, and that raw material, you filter that raw material so that the material becomes more and more and more pure. So that's what we do when we work with art, and that's what everybody does actually. And when people, whatever they do, when they get very good at what they're doing and it becomes very natural and simple what they're doing, and they can completely let go and let it get out of themselves completely naturally, it's because they did all of this filtering of the work. And one of the filtering of the work is that you have a relationship between what you are doing, what you are putting in the world, and how it creates an answer, how it creates a reaction in people. It gives them something good for them, really. So this is also a discipline, a self-discipline, because people can tell you you are so great, you're so wonderful, but that doesn't matter. That's what people say. They tell you that, and then the day after they tell you you're horrible. That doesn't have any value at all. The real value is that you really see by yourself and truly and sincerely in your heart that this person that has been working with you is getting more healthy, is getting more strong, is getting more accurate into what that person is doing. And even if that person ends up that she said or he said, you're so beautiful, wonderful, and then you're not anymore, that doesn't matter. That's not how you know. because it's not about yourself, it's about what we're doing, it's about the energy of our mandala, the mandala we have been creating. So this is the discipline. So you see there is a come and go between discipline and freedom. So the freedom is just lots of air. You just relax. There's no problem with anything. And the other one is the opposite. You do look into things. You take care not to get worried, but you do care. Because care is different from worry, but care is important. So this is the discipline and the healthy part of rhythm and harmony. So if you want an example to reminder to remember about it, in this case, discipline to remember harmony is that when you eat by your mouth, and then you do your what goes out of yourself, the caca, what you're doing at the end, it gets out of your anus. And you never do the opposite, because there is harmony in how the body works. He doesn't work on the opposite. And if you throw up your food, it's because you're sick. So these things are very basic, and it is very easy to see that harmony is not about my sense of what I like, what I don't like, and I dislike. It is the sense of health, of things are healthy. Seasons, the planets, everything. The relationship, all that. And the sense of rhythm is that you are aware of the rhythm. So harmony is more spatial, it's like space, and rhythm is more like time. It's like the measure, how you're going to make, you take the measure of time. It's rhythm. So you have the same time. If you have 5 minutes, you can do a lot of beats, or you can do like 2 slow beats and 4 quick for 5 minutes. This is a way of a rhythm. Your heartbeat is a rhythm. So everything has a rhythm. So it's important in this case to be in discipline, is to feel the rhythm. What is the rhythm of what's happening, of the mandala, and what is the harmony? So if you want a reminder about the previous freedom, the reminder would be this sense of being on earth in the vast universe. And there's no up, no down, no left, no right in that sense. Even if then when you go back on earth, there is up, down, right and left. Okay? And the virtue is the bringing together of these two. So the virtue is how much I can feel my own qualities, and my qualities, the human qualities that I bring out, they are completely inherent of my own self. Like, like a red flower, when it opens, it has red. The red is there, and the red just blossoms because it's part of that flower. So here it's the same, it's part of you. But as a human being, you have always this, how are you working with your energy? Because the same quality could become the opposite of a quality. It's a little bit like the plants. The plants, they could be a remedy or they could be a poison. And usually most poisons are remedy and most remedies are poison. It depends on who takes it and how much you take. So the energy, working with your energy is very important. And why? Because the whole mandala of these three together, freedom, discipline or rigor, and virtue, they are interdependent. They work together. So when you understand it flows on its own, it makes a lot of sense. It's actually, the body itself is made like that. The body itself has a discipline of how it works. It's the healthy part of the body and the rhythm, the harmony. And then it has an energy, which is your breath and all the blood and all the phlegma and everything in your body has circulation of energies, which is part also of the health of your own sense of being. How are you using your energy? How are you also sparing your energy sometimes and engaging fully always into what you do. And then the third part, which was the freedom, is the nature of your mind is boundless, and that is the freedom. So you see, these three are already how we are made, what we are made of. But in the Danza Duende, we take them as the way of understanding art and the work we do with art. So the exercises for freedom, all the exercises have the three qualities, but some are more showing one of them. Like for freedom, the whirling is very good. If people learn how to whirl and to turn, they feel this sense of infinite or boundless. Of course, sometimes they have to overcome a little bit the problems they have with their balance or with their fear, things like that, but they end up always succeeding in whirling. It's not something difficult. It never takes more than 6 months to end up whirling if you train into it. You just have to have a good teacher. And then you find that there's a little bit of discipline in order to take care of your feet and of your axis when you whirl. And there's a little bit of a sense of space and rhythm, in sense that you could open completely to freedom. So the exercise really opens up to a sense of freedom, meditation also, all the mindfulness exercises also, but also expression. Expression of the first thought, best thought is also free. So freedom only becomes completely comfortable when the person is really very balanced. Usually when the person is not balanced, this full, complete freedom of his expression can very often bring the people to difficult places. But also that's part, no? That's part of what we do. We go in these places. We're not afraid. But we just have good preparation so that we're able to deal with all of it. So the discipline is more exercises that you're going to work on coordination of your body, mind, and also right, left, and all the body work of how you could make coordination, I don't know, maybe of your eyes, your fingers, your feet, the rhythm in the same time of the gesture. So that's very, very rich, and it's absolutely wonderful, because when somebody really enters into the discipline of coordination, actually at one point your mind is not able to wander around, and you actually go back into freedom again, because when your mind is very disciplined and doesn't wander all around the place, you feel this fresh air of freedom coming back to you, because it's your own nature. So it's another way of working with freedom, but you work through discipline. So this could be like Bharatanatyam, it could be like what I called the riding the horse, which is an exercise I created. And I will, in one point in the section B, explain that one. And lots of different things that we can do that create a coordination of rhythm, movement, and numbers, mathematics. And the more you're able to do it, the more you make it complicated, so that you're more and more able to do it more and more sophisticated and complicated, like the examples I gave. Actually, martial art is completely like that. So, of course, there's a lot of things you could do. In this case of Danza Duende, you will be careful not to damage people's body, not to damage people's energy or psychologic, and you will be careful not to damage, of course, their minds. What is damaging? But it is creating obscuration in their minds. It is creating unbalance in the psychologic. So that's tricky, of course, because sometimes people will go through uncomfortable places. So that's why the teachers need to study. And the body also you need to study, because you cannot teach dance just like that. You need to know about your body and to know how human body works, and then how to recognize each person, because people are different, even if the human body is always more or less alike. Then how you work with virtue is much more how you work with the communication between people, how you create a sense of sharing or of community, and also of one-to-one, the communication one-to-one, But also poetry. Poetry is really very, very good for the virtue work. And first thought, best thought together, not only dance, but also poetry and music. Because and painting. So all of these things you can use: calligraphic, painting, sculpture. All of these things we do use in Danza Duende Network for the virtue, because this is where it's how you are adventurous. No, you are going to be adventurous into the path. You're going to step into adventure. So this is the definition. I will end up resuming what I just explained. Danza is the dance. You dance your life, you live your dance. Duende is the magic of life. You cannot make it happen, you cannot control it, but you can surrender to it and learn how to surrender. And then the three pillars, the three qualities always present in Danza Duende, and whatever is not full of these three qualities cannot be part of the Danza Duende Network. It is not part. So if there's not freedom, so the openness of absolute space-time awareness, discipline, which is the knowledge of the limitations of space and time as human beings here on Earth. And the third is virtue, is how to communicate with phenomena in the world in the sense of exploring and bringing together all of these three qualities. So thank you very much. This was the 8th talk, and I think this will be enough to start with, and probably that very soon we will enter into the section B. Thank you.